The city streets are consuming people. A homeless man fuses with the concrete, his vacant eyes the only sign of life. Tenants watching from above recoil as their apartment building morphs into a living nightmare. The neighbor sinks into the wall with teeth and hair and flying debris. The key to survival? Aromatherapy massage. What is happening here? This all started 3 days ago. Hank was working from home when the CDC call shattered his quiet afternoon.
Allô?
A mysterious outbreak is mutating people's bodies across the neighborhood. Hank's heart jumps into his throat. He quickly checks the CDC emergency alert on his laptop. Ebola virus is sweeping through Europe. Those infected develop strange skin bumps, with severe cases showing cracks and bark minus-like textures. Hank hurried to the bathroom, inspecting his body in the mirror closely. Finding no signs of infection, he finally let out a small sigh of relief. Just then, the doorbell suddenly rang out loud. Through the peephole, he saw Anna, his new girlfriend. Anna hurried in anxiously, explaining her neighborhood was suddenly locked down and she had nowhere else to turn but her boyfriend. As Hank reached to examine her, Anna pushed him onto the bed. 3 minutes later, as Anna showered, Hank still anxiously checked her for symptoms in secret. Seeing no bumps on her skin, his anxious heart finally settled. The ambulance siren outside shrieked piercingly. They pulled back the curtains and saw an old man fused into the pavement. Rescuers worked free him, but his legs were wrapped in concrete. Each tug from the rescuers made the old man scream in pain. After multiple failed attempts, they erected barriers and left him to merge with the road. Hank and Anna were utterly devastated. Before they could recover, the TV delivered worse news. The CDC issued fresh alerts. This virus mutates victims' skin and causes their bodies to fuse with surrounding objects upon infection. Touch stone while infected, and you'll turn to stone yourself. Hank grasped the urgency and understood they must take preventive action at once. At dawn, he raced to the corner store and bought everything he could. Back home, he sealed every door and window with plastic sheets and disinfected the entire place. He thought they were safe, but the virus spread faster than he'd ever imagined. In just 1 week, cases exploded across the globe. To curb the virus spread, nations swiftly enacted emergency measures and advised citizens to quarantine at home. Those with symptoms must go to designated areas. But the outbreak showed no signs of slowing. Days later, the power went out, leaving Hank's building in total darkness, and quickly converted their old bicycle into a makeshift generator to provide temporary lighting during the blackout. Anna tried to check the situation online, but all communication networks were down. As the couple idled away their time, Anna noticed a peculiar stone on the floor. Anna curiously bent down and witnessed a terrifying scene. A pile of stones was hidden under the bed, eerily squirming. Hank peered closer and spotted a face in the stones. It was old Wang, their nosy neighbor, who had fused with the wall after infection. In a panic, Anna frantically swung her bat until the stone man suddenly exploded into pieces. Hank shielded Anna but was hit by flying debris. Anna helped Hank onto the bed and tried to pluck out the stones with tweezers, but they were merging with his skin. Anna desperately dug out each stone from Hank's body to stop his petrification. Fortunately, the virus did not spread within Hank's body. Days later, Hank finally woke. Anna was desperate for news from outside, but all networks were down. The TV flickered with sporadic images. When one showed the CDC overrun, Hank and Anna went dead silent. Strange noises came from outside. Anna thought it was wind rustling plastic, but the air was completely still. She moved closer and discovered a pet dog fused into the wooden plank. Its eyes bulged wildly, whimpering sporadically. Anna stood frozen, sensing something far more horrifying was approaching. Hank reacted instantly, yanking Anna into the storage room. Before they could calm down, the walls suddenly started shrinking around them. Within minutes, the crushing pressure stole their breath. To their shock, old Wang was alive, fused with the room itself. Panicking, Hank snatched a dagger and lunged at the face in the wall. Back in the living room, the window boards were gone. Hank hastily blocked the gap with random items. Though the immediate danger had passed, neither of them could feel any relief. The situation was worse than they'd ever feared. A few days later, Hank noticed small bumps emerging all over her skin, now rough and cracked like aged tree bark. He recognized the early infection signs minus and felt utterly powerless. Bitter frustration overwhelmed him. The virus was utterly baffling, its origin a complete mystery and any possible cure beyond comprehension. The virus spread fast. Within days, Anna's body started merging with the bedsheet. The slightest movement tore her skin, sending waves of agony. Hank grabbed scissors, trying to cut the melting sheet off Anna. With just one small cut, a torrent of blood poured from Anna's wounded body. Hank let the scissors fall, utterly helpless, as he watched Anna's body slowly fading away in agony before him. Anna had been completely assimilated by the sheet, with only her head remaining visible. Her lips trembled weakly as she begged Hank to leave the apartment quickly.
Je deviens tout ce que je vois.
Hank's face showed despair, for the outside world could be just as grim. How long could he last alone? The apartment trembled violently, sending showers of dust cascading from its walls. Hank looked up to see the apartment walls pulsing inward, like a living beast, its deep heartbeat echoing through the halls. Confused, Hank stepped out to find the hallway morphed into a slimy intestinal passage. Floor and walls melted together, as if they'd entered a living digestive tract. The walls actively blocked Hank's way, practically trying to devour him. Panicked, Hank scrambled away. He forced his way through a collapsing door and tumbled into another realm. Hank hit the floor and blacked out. In a daze, he felt soft hands touching him on feared assimilation, but then a woman's voice suddenly startled him out of his trance.
Mais pour sortir, je vais avoir besoin de vous.
She was another apartment survivor. We're inside the apartment's digestive system, she explained. The walls are gut lining. To escape, we must irritate the digestive tract and trigger its rejection response. Following the woman's lead, Hank began pounding the fleshy walls with his fists. Soon, thick mucus began oozing from the walls. Covered in slime, they were pushed out as the intestinal walls contracted. They were rescued yet found no happiness in it. The world outside had transformed just as terribly. Toxic fumes filled the air as bizarre snowflakes drifted down. Hank looked back to find their once familiar apartment building now distorted into a massive, throbbing square tumor. With uneasy hearts, they pressed onward. A ruin materialized in the sickly sky. Hank looked back and spotted other survivors on the street. Some wore tattered plastic sheets. Others had wooden sticks fused to arms. Hank saw others had also survived the catastrophe besides them. After a moment's hesitation, she joined the survivors and moved on. Hank chose to remain where he stood. He stared at the grotesque mass consuming his life, then leaned in with resignation. He shut his tired eyes wearily. Lost in a blue haze, Hank felt weightless as his body gradually merged with the boundless space surrounding him. The instant Hank vanished, the whole earth began its miraculous metamorphosis. The unseen forespalled together mountains, rivers, and structures, merging them into a new celestial being that now drifts through the cosmos. Isn't this mind-blowing plot just as shocking to you as it is to me? The film's metaphors are intriguing. The protagonist is a lonely, anxious social outcast living unnoticed in his own isolated world. His greatest skill was vanishing into bustling crowds, where even if he suddenly disappeared, no one would ever notice his absence. Yet in the final scene, he alone remains while the noisy crowd fades away into silence. This mirrors his inner world perfectly. The film's ending elevates the entire narrative to a profoundly higher artistic level, like those first lungfish that crawled onto land, sparking evolution's new chapter. When evolution's tide sweeps in, the adaptable rise is life's new vanguard, while unbending souls like our hero are reduced to sustenance for the coming era. And that's a wrap for today. Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below. See you next time.